Welcome to Finance Demo Day. My name is Doug Bertram with MetaViewer Information Systems. I'm going to walk you through a quick brief overview of the how we help companies automate their AP workflows with our MetaViewer AP automation solution. It is very tightly integrated with your Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations solution. So I'll kind of walk you through that. At the end, I'll give you a little bit of contact information so you can reach out to us and really spend a little more deeper dive into the product and how it really could help you with your specific needs. But today, I'll just kind of walk you through it and we'll kind of go from there. So let's make this this full screen here. And really, as a company, MetaFile, we've been doing document management for 45 years. We've helped a lot of companies over the years, really in all aspects of document management. Probably about 12, 13 years ago, there was so much interest in AP automation and that tight integration with the Microsoft Dynamics family of products that we decided we would build a best practices approach to AP. So now when we load the software, we can load that, and then we tie it to your F&O system, and then you have everything that I have in my demo system. And then we can really focus on tweaking it if we need to, really making sure you understand how it all works so that when you do go live, you've got a great solution that has been battle tested at hundreds and hundreds of organizations. That default solution, we've also kind of grown it over time. You know, we learn from every implementation, so we keep enhancing it, and adding more values to it. So it is pretty well thought out. I'm going to walk you through that. In the PowerPoint here, I'll kind of give you a 5-minute overview what the entire solution does, and then I'll actually jump over real quick and show you some live product just to give you a flavor for what things look like. So a lot of clients will start with AP, but we can leverage it and use it for other things. I'll kind of put up a slide later to talk about that a little bit. But really, as it relates to AP, it starts to capture the documents as soon as they come in the organization. We are typically watching an email box or email boxes, and when invoices come in there, we're going to automatically pull them into the system. We're going to feed them into an intelligent recognition service that uses artificial intelligence to analyze that document and extract all the data. So we use the data to index or identify what that document's all about in MetaFile and MetaViewer, but ultimately we're going to create those transactions over in FO so you don't have to key the information over there as well. If you do still get some paper, I think post-COVID, that's kind of really a thing of the past. We don't see a lot of people getting paper, but if you do, you're gonna have to digitize it in some way using a copier or a scanner to scan it to the email that we're watching, and then we pull that in, and it goes into the same intelligent recognition engine to extract that data and deliver the document into the workflows. Workflow, we really separate, we have 2 different workflows built into the default solution, really whether it's related to a purchase order or not. So we kind of process things a little bit differently depending on that criteria. So if we do pull a purchase order number off of the invoice, we will communicate with your D365 FO solution and match it to the purchase order information that's available there and the rules that are associated with that PO, what's a 2-way match, what requires a 3-way match. If everything is a perfect match, we're just going to push it right over to Dynamics, and nobody really touches it in MetaViewer. If for some reason it fails those matches, that's where we have a workflow that interacts with the D365 FO data in real time so that we can match to it, and you can figure out why it didn't match. You can adjust the purchase order in D365, or you can maybe adjust the invoice, but once it's reconciled, then you'll be able to push that over to Dynamics as well. Invoices that aren't related to purchase order, we have a separate workflow for that. They're a little bit more difficult to automate, mainly because you aren't really, there's no placeholder in D365 that we're expecting this invoice to come in. But the way we try to automate it is we can apply default coding from the vendor card or vendor record, and you can change it, add to it, do whatever, or accept it. Route it for approvals as required, and then once it's been fully coded and approved, you can then push that transaction over to Dynamics. We are browser-based. We have been for many, many years. So users log into the system and participate in all their workflows, do everything from that browser window. This makes it nice for solutions like D365 for finance and operations. That is a cloud solution as well. You don't really need to put any servers in your organization to maintain or anything like that. We take care of everything in our hosted center and just point it to your D365 solution. All the integration with Dynamics is real time, and that's really important because if you add a new account code, you add a new vendor, you change a PO, everything is utilized by MetaViewer in a real-time fashion. So we go get the information as we need it, as we're processing. And then when you're ready to push the transaction over, it's immediately available in F&O to be able to be posted and paid and everything else that you do over there. So that's kind of what the entire solution does. Now I'm gonna hop out of here and we're going to jump over to my virtual machine and kind of show you just a brief overview of what the product looks like. All right, so I logged in. Like a lot of other software applications, it's roles driven. So each of the groupings here is kind of synonymous with a role. This user's got probably a few more things than normal, but I'd like to show some extra things like expense report processing and everything. But these roles are my dashboard. So when things change from a 0 to a 3, 5, 15, then there's something in those queues that might need my attention. I can go in there and take a look at them. So when invoices come in, we watch that email box, we feed them up to that intelligent recognition service. It's going to extract the data. And then they're going to probably, if they need interaction, they're going to show up in this preparation queue as soon as they come into your organization with all the data extracted. Once we hand them off to D365 or through an automated process or through some user interaction, we're going to route them to this queue down here that says waiting for payment, where I have 5 invoices. Essentially, once they're in there, then we're going to pull the payment information back when it's applied to the transaction in D365. And then we're going to complete those documents. And you can use these searches, find payables, in process to complete, to really search for anything that's in the product, wherever it may be. So you can search by invoice number, company, vendor. You can use it for audits. You can use it for spend analysis, all kinds of different things. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end and kind of give you a quick tour of that. If I go into this waiting for payment, so I pulled some invoices in. Let's just pick this Fabricam supplier invoice. So when the invoice came in, we did pull the purchase order number off. It was a valid PO in D365. And then we look to see what can we match it to, depending on how you set the PO up, whether it requires a two-way or three-way match. If each line item requires a three-way match, we're looking for receipts that exist for those. If it was only set up as a two-way match, we're looking for things that are still open, but not invoiced against yet. So in this case, we did find some receipts, PO 0034, and then we found one line item that really only had a two-way match configuration in D365. Everything tied out, everything was a perfect match. So we're able to push this invoice right over to D365. And now we're waiting for this payment information to come back, this information right here. And then once we get that, we're going to complete this document. And then you can use those searches to search this payment information, as well as all the information we extracted, the GL coding, the PO items, all that kind of stuff. All right, let's hop over to preparation and let's look at a purchase order invoice that didn't succeed automatically. So let's look at the state and receivers one down here. So when this invoice came in, it succeeded on several different checks and balances, but it failed kind of one or did not succeed on one of them. And essentially that's just basically telling me it wasn't a perfect match. I have either more receipts or not enough receipts or something in F&O that didn't tie out to this invoice. So you can see on the invoice highlighted in yellow, these are the values that extraction service extracted. All that information. We do populate that in the fields here. So all the fields with this icon are the fields that we're extracting the information from. So we did pull the PO number off. It was a valid PO, so we specified this as a PO invoice. And now when I hit the code and reconcile, it's going to communicate with D365 to show me what are the items that qualify for matching. So it looks like I've got different receipts of the M17 wiring harnesses. I'm off by a little under $5,000 in the lower right there. So if I look at this invoice, we're being invoiced for 171 of the wiring harnesses, but we've received more receipts than that, or more lots than that. So I could adjust this 319, I could adjust that to be only 171 is what this invoice applies to. Or if I look at this, I can even remove that line altogether. And I'm left with 171 in these two receipts that match out and tie out. I now have a difference. I can say reconciled and push that transaction over to D365. Now, presumably for those other 319 that still exist, we'll probably get another invoice that will either automatically match to those. Other things you might need to adjust is, in addition to the quantity, is maybe the unit price if you wanted to allow for variances or things like that. Or I could route it to the buyer and ask them to update the PO and then reconcile it, match it exactly as the PO exists. Okay. Let's look at another invoice here. We'll take this datum receiver's invoice. So this invoice is not related to a purchase order. So this one, there is no PO on the invoice, so we specified this as being a non-PO invoice type. Same thing, we extracted all the data, but this time when I hit code and reconcile, it's going to communicate with D365, and it's going to set the default account codes based off of what is the defaults for this vendor in D365. So you can see I specified my main account. In my system, I have a business unit and department dimensions. Looks like I had a business unit defaulted. I did not have a department defaulted. The rules associated with your main accounts and when your dimensions are required, depending on what you have for dimensions, you're going to look a little different to accommodate the dimensions you have. But we do honor those rules, so you can only code valid coding combinations. We do also support project accounting, so you could actually enter project lines and then you're filling in the project accounts and things like that. But I can add additional rows. If I wanted to change the default here, I can type a few characters of an account number. It's going to communicate in real time to the chart of accounts to show me other account numbers that match what I'm typing. And I can also do it by description too. So if I did cost of goods sold, for example, I can see all the account codes with those with the description. Okay, I coded up. I say coded. In my system will remember for the parameters of this document, who are the typical approvers for this invoice. So it comes up and it specifies that approver 1 is department 100. I can hit the drop down and change it if it's something different. You guys will tell us what you want for approval codes here. So this will really be up to you to make this make sense. I'd like more of the kind of the cost center role based rather than specific people, but really it doesn't matter. We can build thresholds in here too. So if the default was 600 or I change it to 600, it knows it was over as approval limit. So it went to approver 2 and so on. Okay, so I'm going to accept department 100. I'm going to say send for approval. It's immediately put in that person's queue. That person will probably get an email eventually that looks something like this. We don't send an email for every invoice. We maybe look once a day, once a week, something like that. If you don't have any invoices, you won't get an email. If you do, you'll get one summary email like this. 3 payables. I have a link to my queue. I have a link to everything specifically in my queue with a little summary of each transaction. Okay. Let's log out. Let's go look at the approver, see what he sees. Joe is my department 100 guy. He's got his approvals up here. If he clicks on that, this one at the bottom is the one that we just routed to him. Each step of the way, we control who has the rights to see and do what. So I've hidden some fields that aren't pertinent to the approver, made most everything read-only, including the coding down here. But this really, the coding, that's variable for each client. Some people want their approvers to change the coding. Others don't want them to change it because they don't know what they're doing. But this could be editable like it was in the first step or just read-only. We're logging who's doing what with the document over here. You know, he could come in here and say, do not pay, return to AP, not mine. But hopefully everything looks good. He'll click the approve. It will stamp his approval over there and then route the document either to the next approver, or if there are no more approvers to go to, it's going to go back to a corporate AP person who has this final review queue. Rejected payables would be the ones I say do not pay. Reassign approvers if I said not mine, returned or recode if I sent it back to AP. If I look at final review here, this invoice is in here. Again, I can look at this, I can see where it's been. I can add notes to collaborate with other people and send them notices or tag them on my notes so they could see those notes and respond. If everything, I can request additional approvals, send it back to the beginning if I wanted to start over. But if everything looks good, I'm going to say export to ERP, and then we hand this transaction to a Microsoft Web Service that's going to pull that data in and then create the transaction in D365. If I go back to my home page here, right, my waiting for payment is now up to 7. I pushed a purchase order invoice over. I pushed a non-PO invoice over. So now we're just waiting to get that payment information back from D365. Okay. Real quick on searching, if I hit this find payables, I can fill out this form and really search for anything. Typically, if I had a vendor calling in, I put in an invoice number, that's probably good enough. I could say search and then retrieve that. Otherwise, I can search, I can fill out things on this form, and it is a smart form. So you can see I've got 20 that qualify for Contoso Entertainment. Of those 20, if I hit the payable type, 11 are non-PO, 6 are PO, and I can search by GL, item numbers, payment information, date ranges. And then when I say search, I get my search results. If it's a single document, would open up in the browser, and I would be taken right to that invoice. You can use this if I did some vendor spend analysis. I could export all of my search results to an Excel spreadsheet, so I can do some further analysis there. Or maybe perhaps I want to select all these invoices and download them as one large PDF to give to an auditor. Then they can dig through and look at the audit trail, look at the notes, look at everything else. All right, so let's hop back over to my PowerPoint here. All right, so as I said kind of in the beginning, people like to utilize the product for lots of other things. We got some add-on solutions like expense report processing, but even outside the AP process, we've got things like HR or contracts or AR that we can kind of work with you to kind of design it really to your specs and make sure that that you really get the bang out of your buck for investing in MetaViewer. All right, so bring up this screen. This kind of gives you a little bit more contact information, how to reach out to us. I hope you enjoyed the brief tutorial of the product today. If you do have any other questions, shoot us an email at info@metafile.com, and then we can kind of maybe set up a one-on-one conversation with you, take a little deeper dive into the product, explain how the solution works and how it meets the objectives that you're hoping to accomplish with implementing our solution. So appreciate your time today. With that, I'll give it back to the moderator, and you guys have a great day. Look forward to talking with you.